It's been kind of a slow start to the year, so let's get talking about it. Hello there, welcome back to the channel. I am Grand Moff Tony. Well, it is a new month. It's time once again to sit down, have a look at what's new in the collection. It's time once again for Fine Editions.
Fine addition to my collection.
Yes, welcome to the Fine Editions of January and February. Now, as I've already said, it's been kind of a slow start to the year. I did end up losing the job that funds my toy hunting and my collecting budget, so that's been kind of a knock on how we do things. To say nothing of the fact that I feel like the end of the year last year was so heavily stacked, like there was so much new stuff out and about, and it was so great to go out and find it. I found myself almost hitting burnout where I was like, I can't do this. I can't keep this up consistently. I can't keep going out, finding new toys and spending money on them, especially now that I don't have that extra income coming in to cover the costs. So yeah, January was very, very slow, and February just ended up being extra figures that were bought for little side projects, which we'll get into. So with all that said, let's actually get into this. Let's talk about the figures that I added to my collection these past 2 months. First up, and so close to arriving in December, so much so that I was this tempted to lie about it and pretend I got it in December, but I'm glad I didn't because now I can have it here. I got the Padawan Ahsoka Tano. Now, this figure is perfect. That's all I can really say about it. It is absolutely perfect. Now, I don't know if it's going to end up topping the Corvus Ahsoka Tano, which, as most of you know, is my favorite figure in the entire Black series, but this one is so good, and I feel like it just might happen. I just talked about the best figures in the line, and here comes this one, and it's just blowing my mind with how good it is. The photoreal likeness is great, the articulation is next level, and it can actually stand up. It's got flat feet. It doesn't have bloody heels that are going to cause the thing to topple over. Now, I will say, with the exception of my Rebels Ahsoka, I don't usually have the problem with my Mandalore Ahsoka. She stands up just fine, but that Rebels one topples over all the time. This figure is just incredible. It's probably my favorite Ahsoka Tano look from her whole tenure in the Star Wars franchise, and being able to properly represent it on my shelf has been absolutely brilliant. I have loved every minute of this figure. The engineering is just so good. It is so perfect. I can't leave it alone. I can't put it down. It is so good. I'm so pleased with it, and I'm really happy that I finally got to add this to my collection. We ended up just buying this one online. We were holding out to try and find it in person, but yeah, eventually you just got to be like, you know what, every now and then I'm going to spoil myself and we'll buy it online. So yeah, the Clone Wars Ahsoka Tano, an absolutely brilliant addition to the collection. Up next is a bit of a controversial one. It's Baylan Skoll. Now, I really like this figure. I really like the bits of it that are really good. Like, I like the likeness, I like the articulation, I like how it moves. I actually really like the giant orange lightsaber, and I did manage to find one of the orange ones, not one of the original red ones, which I was really pleased with. I found this in a GameStop in my local town, and I just jumped on it as soon as I saw it, because that's what I was out looking for. I was looking for Baylan and Shin. And I don't even feel like the rust effect that they went with the green on this, is as egregious as what you see on Marok. I feel like it's a lot more subtle. Now, it could probably do with a dark wash just as well, and I probably will get around to doing it at some point, but the real elephant in the room with Baylan Skoll is his height, and I really didn't think it was going to bother me. I really thought, people say that Grievous is too short, and my Grievous's height has never really bothered me. Some people even say that the Count Dooku figure is too tall, and I think that they're mad. And really, we are talking about 0.3 of an inch here. Like, Baylan is 6'3", and the figure was 6 inches. And for the longest time, it didn't really bother me. Like, he was standing on my coffee table, and I was like, yeah, he looks okay. The lightsaber looks a bit silly at his original height, but there was nothing there that was really offensive to me. And I'll get into when I developed a problem with the height in just a minute. But for the most part, I really, really liked this figure. Like, even with the height problem, I was very, very happy with it. I thought that the paintwork was better than Marok's. I felt like the articulation was very, very good. I could pull off all of the powerful fighting poses that I wanted to get him in, and he looked decent going up against my Ahsoka series Ahsoka. So yeah, at that point in time, all I'm thinking is, oh yeah, Baylan Skoll, great addition to the collection. So let's get into when I actually started to get a problem with it, and that was a few weeks later when I found Shin up at Great Lakes Crossings GameStop. Now, I got Shin out of the box, and immediately the height becomes an issue because she's 6 inches too, and I believe the actress, or at least the character, is supposed to be 5'7". So that is a pretty stark height difference that's supposed to be there that wasn't there. I'll talk about the Shin figure really quickly while I'm doing this. Like, I really, really like her. Again, articulation is great. I love the orange lightsaber. The effect looks so, so cool. I love all the details on her outfit. She looks amazing. The armor is well painted. I'm still not 1,000% sold on the hair. The hair is still kind of featureless and chonky, and I'm not really sure about it. But I like the face a lot more in person than what I was seeing online, so that makes me happy. But yeah, that height problem was just... It wasn't a problem when I just had Baylan. When I just had Baylan, he looked fine. I had just come off of, Darth Malak, who's a very, very, very tall figure. And I'm like, well, he's not going to be Darth Malak tall, is he? So I'll just accept him for what he is, and he looks fine anyway. But as soon as you add Shin into the equation and how overly tall she is, then it becomes a problem. Now, I will openly admit, I have never been one for customizing my figures. I'll tell you the most daring customization I've ever done on a Black Series figure in my years upon years of collecting them, and it was pulling the rangefinder off of Jesse's helmet, because there wasn't supposed to be a rangefinder there, and it was an easy fix. I'm not a customizer by any stretch of the imagination. But I watched Landspeeder Luke's brilliant video on how to fix the height on these two figures. I went out and I bought Reva and Koska Reeves off of eBay and Amazon for an absolute steal, and I was using a gift card that I got from work anyway, so it didn't cost me any real money to buy those scrapped figures. And even though it was touch and go for a minute, and there was a moment where I didn't think I was going to be able to get Baylan's shin separated from his thigh, and it was really, really fighting me. And then I had the whole problem of Baylan's skirt sticking out that I had to correct, so I ended up putting him back into the hot water to kind of tighten the skirt around his legs using an elastic band. But ultimately, the result was utterly life-changing. Like, the changes that it makes to these two figures and how they look together is so, so good. I mean, I tried everything to avoid actually going in and modifying these figures. Like, I was just posing Shin way more dynamically than I was posing Baylan. I had Baylan standing straight upright, and I had Shin, like, sort of crouched over and hunched and wielding her lightsaber. Just anything to kind of bring her height down. But really, finally getting, like, decently sized legs onto these guys turns out to be the thing that makes them absolutely brilliant, because now I'm utterly in love with them. They're on my desk, they have been there since I did it, and they will probably stay there for a very, very long time, because I love how they look together now. Now, as I say, I will probably go in and stick a dark wash on that sort of turquoise oxidization look they've got going on Baylan's armor, and I desperately need to go in and paint Koska's legs to get the armor, more of the silver armor that you see in Shin's costume, and paint the trousers in the black that she has on the rest of the figure. But one thing I was really concerned about, particularly with Shin, was that her robes already came down to where they were supposed to come down to when she was 6 inches tall. So when you remove that extra bit of height from the legs, I was worried she was going to look really stubby. Like, this knee-length skirt was just going to go all the way down to her ankles now, or I was going to try and pose her dynamically and it was just going to be hitting the floor. But you can see for yourself, it looks fine how it is. Now, this obviously raises the debate of, like, should I have had to go in and do this and correct these figures after going out and buying them? No, but if it really bothered me, I wouldn't have bought them. Let's be perfectly honest here. Overall, even though it took a little bit of work to get them looking the way they're supposed to be looking, and even though they're there's still some optional stuff that I may or may not do in the future. I feel like Balin and Shin look so good together now, and they are very, very fine additions to my collection. I guess that just kind of leaves the 2 scrap figures that I bought, because I didn't really get anything else. So I picked up Reva from Amazon. She was an easy purchase. I said, back when she came out, what a fantastic figure she is, and it really killed me to have to take her apart and use pieces from her to improve the Balin, but I did end up keeping the spare lightsabers. And then Koska is a great figure as well, and again, it did kind of hurt to take her apart like that, but less so than Reva. We do have that new Mandalorian Night Owl figure coming down the pipes, which is basically just a Koska repaint, but it looks really, really good. So I am sorely tempted to already move on and do my next customization, which will be just to put Koska's head onto that Mandalorian, because it just looks better than the original Koska figure. And that was pretty much it. Like, I haven't had a ton added to my collection over the last couple of months. As I say, the situation with losing my second job and not having that dedicated income for my collecting budget anymore has really caused me to slow down, because I can't just go out there and buy whatever now. Now, thankfully, we do seem to be in something of a reprieve right now. Like, I got all the stuff that I was looking for towards the end of last year, and the new stuff for this year hasn't really started doing the rounds yet. So we're in this kind of, let's just take a deep breath and wait for those Anakin and Padme figures to start showing up, and then we can get back into this. I have seen figures that I don't have. I saw the Tusken Chieftain, I saw the Pike Soldier, and I consistently see the Andor figures that I still haven't picked up yet, Luthen and Tala from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. These are all figures that I don't have, and they're all figures that I haven't bought yet, but they're also figures that, while 2023 was going on and all those great new figures were coming out, I wasn't really prepared to spend the budget that could go to one of these new awesome figures on one of the existing, probably good, but probably easy to pick up later down the line figures. I saw Luthen back in May, back when I was in London, and I was like, nah, I can probably pick him up later, and he is still on shelves now. And that's really where I've been at with the channel recently. Like, some of you probably noticed that there wasn't even an upload last week. I didn't even make a video last week because I was in this kind of headspace where I'm still trying to figure out, okay, if we're not going to talk about Black Series figures this week, then what are we going to talk about? And that's going to take some actual scheduling. I've used up a lot of the ideas that I wrote down back when I had thought about restarting the channel. I've gone through and I've used up most of those ideas, so I'm going to have to sit down and do some proper thinking and some proper scheduling and figure out just what we're going to talk about on the weeks when we're not talking about Star Wars toys. Anyway, I'm rambling, so let me do what I always do in this situation, which is pass this subject off to you. What were some fine additions to your collections from the past 2 months, and what are some general Star Wars topics that you wouldn't mind us visiting on the channel? Star Wars is my favourite thing, so whatever you want to talk about, I can definitely find the time and the energy to talk about it. In the meantime, however, I've been Grand Moff Tony. Those were the fine additions to my collection from the months of January and February. You may subscribe when ready. But for the and then I had and then